I'm Brian McKenzie, founder and owner of Finger Lakes Distilling, maker of McKenzie whiskey, and these are my liquid pleasures. Today we're going to taste and compare two McKenzie whiskeys made here at Finger Lakes Distilling. We have our straight bourbon, which is our high rye recipe bourbon, and then we're going to taste our Empire Rye, which is a straight rye whiskey. We're going to start with the bourbon, so let's give it a pour. So these are our two flagship products. The bourbon is made from local ingredients and aged for 4 to 7 years. As you taste the bourbon, you're going to want to look for clarity and color. You can tell it's been aged in a heavy char barrel, given the nice brown hue to it. We'll nose the spirit. We pick up a lot of vanilla and caramel and nice notes like that. And let's give it a taste. I like to kind of chew on the whiskey a little bit to really get all the flavor. And you're going to pick up a nice rye bite kind of at the end of the whiskey, but you still get that traditional caramel, toffee, all those really pleasant notes that you associate with a well-made bourbon. So a lot of people ask how the whiskeys are made and what makes them different. And our bourbon is made from local corn. We also have a flavoring grain. In the case of the straight bourbon, it's rye, and then malted barley is the third grain that's used. And that'll be fermented and distilled and then aged for 4 to 7 years in a heavy char barrel. And it creates a totally unique flavor profile versus the rye, which is made with mostly rye grain and malted barley. There's no corn in the rye. So you're going to get very different whiskeys, even though the process of making those whiskeys is very similar in terms of the way we grind the grain, we cook it, we ferment it, and distill it on the same equipment. So it's really the base ingredients that are making the difference. People ask about the straight whiskey, why it's called a straight whiskey. That means it's got to be aged for at least 2 years. And there's no additives to the whiskey at all. So all the color and flavor that you're getting in the whiskey is coming from the barrel itself. So now let's try the rye. With the bourbon, you're getting a lot of sweetness from the corn that we use predominantly with rye. A lot more rye spice. I associate it with kind of those Christmas spices. This is 80% rye, 20% malted barley. Aged for about 5 or 6 years in heavy charred oak, and this is finished in a sherry cask, which kind of gives it a little roundness on the back end, a little sweetness. Again, we want to take a look at this. This takes on a little bit more of a reddish hue, I would say. Really pops with flavor out of the glass, and then as we taste it, definitely rye spice up front, but like I said, it kind of really rounds out on the back end. You get some dried fruit character, a little sweetness, and really makes for a well-balanced whiskey. So craft distilleries are seeing a big boom right now. It's kind of followed the wineries and breweries, and it's the next chapter, I guess. We have over 150 craft distilleries in New York State right now. We got started about 15 years ago as one of the first, and we set up in the Finger Lakes, I guess predominantly because that's where I'm from, but we have a wealth of agricultural resources to pull from, so all of the grain and fruit that we use is grown right here, and we're also part of this really exciting wine trail, so people are coming to sample craft beverages, and it was just a logical extension to set up a distillery on that wine trail. So we've tried two very different whiskeys. They're made from local grain. As you sip on bourbon, you're going to get definitely more of that sweet caramel vanilla kind of note that comes through as the corn kind of transforms in the barrel. Rye is really traditionally more of a spicy style of whiskey. You get kind of peppery notes. It's a little more polarizing, but also very delicious. It works really well in cocktails. Some of the traditional, pre-prohibition cocktails. If I'm making a Manhattan, there's no question I'm going to use McKenzie Rye in that. So there's quite a bit of difference, even though they're made kind of in the same way. The base ingredients just lead to very different taste profiles. I guess if you're unsure which is best for you, I would give each one a try and see what you think. You got to be a little crazy to get into the distilling business. We're making products today that we won't sell for 4+ years. But it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't miss wearing a suit and tie when it was back when I used to be a banker. We meet all kinds of interesting people from all over the world, and I encourage you to come down and enjoy a glass of McKenzie whiskey.